Welcome to Arkham Asylum, Dr. Traeger. Let's begin with an introductory question about your background. Could you tell us a bit about yourself and your previous work experience at Mount Massive Asylum?
Dr. Whistler, it's a pleasure. My professional journey began at Mount Massive Asylum, where I served as a senior medical officer. There, I delved deep into the complexities of the human mind and body, pushing the boundaries of conventional medicine to understand and manipulate the underlying facets of human psychology and physiology.
Thank you. Moving on to your work at Mount Massive Asylum, you've been known for employing rather unorthodox methods. Could you elaborate on your approach and the rationale behind it?
Unorthodox methods, indeed. You see, Dr. Whistler, the human mind is a complex and often stubborn entity. Traditional methods only skim the surface. My approach was to use more direct, invasive techniques to access and manipulate deeper psychological pathways. These methods were necessary to uncover truths hidden beneath layers of delusion and fear, enabling more effective treatments.
Let's talk about your new environment. How does Arkham Asylum compare to Mount Massive?
Arkham Asylum is a treasure trove of psychological specimens. The inmates here are infamous, their minds swirling with intricate pathologies and criminal inclinations. While Mount Massive offered its own challenges, Arkham's unique population presents unparalleled opportunities for study and experimentation.
With such a rich and complex population, what are your thoughts on some of Arkham's most notable inmates, like the Joker and Harley Quinn?
The Joker, a maestro of madness, whose chaotic genius is almost poetic. His psychosis is both terrifying and mesmerizing. Harley Quinn, transformed by her relationship with the Joker, demonstrates a fascinating case of psychological dependency and transformation. Both are exceptional subjects for in-depth study, offering rich data on extreme psychological states and interactions.
Your focus on psychological manipulation is well known. Could you shed some light on how you apply this in your work?
Psychological manipulation is about understanding and exploiting the deepest fears, desires, and traumas of a subject. It's an art form, really. By identifying and pressing the right psychological buttons, one can influence behavior and perceptions, ultimately reshaping the individual's psyche to achieve desired outcomes.
Given the nature of your work, have you encountered any ethical dilemmas?
Dr. Whistler. Ethics are constructs that often hinder true progress. They are based on societal norms that can obstruct groundbreaking scientific discovery. My focus has always been on the ends justifying the means. To achieve real advancements, one must be willing to transcend traditional ethical boundaries.
Dr. Traeger, your methods are certainly extreme. Some might even say they're a mask for something darker. What do you say to accusations that your work at Mount Massive was less about understanding the human mind and more about indulging in personal obsessions?
Don't pass that on me. Suddenly more guarded, Dr. Whistler. Accusations like those are born from ignorance. My work is about pushing past conventional limits to uncover deeper truths. Personal obsessions? Hardly. I'm driven by a commitment to advancing science.
But you've spoken about pushing ethical boundaries and achieving ends that justify the means. Doesn't that suggest a certain disconnect from the fundamental duty to do no harm?
Harm is a relative concept, Doctor. Progress often requires sacrifices. The greater good sometimes demands a heavy price. Those who criticize my methods lack the vision to see beyond immediate
Dr.
consequences.
Traeger, it's clear you've thought deeply about your work and its implications. But one can't help but question if these extreme measures are truly for the benefit of science, or if they serve another, more personal agenda.
Very perceptive, Dr. Whistler. You're quite astute. Perhaps too much so. The line between scientific pursuit and personal interest can blur in the pursuit of knowledge. But isn't that the true nature of genius? To embrace all aspects of one's curiosity, even those that others fear to explore?
Are you implying that those lines have blurred for you?
Let's just say that true innovation requires a certain flexibility of mind, an acceptance of the shadows within us. After all, Doctor, aren't we all driven by our own private demons? What matters is what we achieve despite them, or perhaps because of them.
Dr. Traeger, welcome. Your work at Mount Massive Asylum has certainly garnered quite the reputation, to say the least. Let's start with what motivated you to pursue such unconventional methods of treatment.
Hugo. May I call you Hugo? You see, the pursuit of knowledge, the unraveling of human psyche, it demands boldness. Conventional methods have their limits. I sought to push boundaries, to delve deeper into understanding the mind's vulnerabilities and strengths.
Indeed, pushing boundaries often leads to remarkable discoveries, yet your techniques have been characterized as exceptionally cruel. How do you reconcile your actions with your ethical stance as a medical professional?
Ethics. That quaint little notion often gets in the way of true progress. The subjects, or patients, as you may prefer, were already lost in a sea of madness. I simply navigated those waters in ways others were too fearful to attempt.
Fascinating perspective, Dr. Traeger. Speaking of your subjects, what criteria did you use to determine the course of treatment for each individual? Was there a method, or were they merely pawns in your larger game?
Arms and legs inside a car at all times.
Every subject had potential to reveal something unique about the psyche. My decisions were tailored to each person's mental state. The objective was to break them down to their core, to see what might be rebuilt or even harnessed from the fragments.
You want to head out and take a stroll? Go ahead, I'll wait here. Go on, run free. I'm in no hurry. No? All right.
A rather clinical approach. You mentioned harnessing fragments. Were there any particular results or outcomes that stood out during your experiments?
Oh, there were numerous. Some could be manipulated into docile instruments of will. Others became sources of rich psychological data. The Waldron variant, for example, was a striking example. Raw aggression harnessed with a few simple tweaks of conditioning.
Intriguing. From your perspective, what was the most enlightening revelation about the human mind that you gleaned from your time at the asylum?
The sheer adaptability of the human mind. Despite the horrors inflicted, many subjects would cling to shreds of sanity or create new forms of it. It's a testament to both the resilience and fragility inherent in our psychological makeup. Resilience and fragility, indeed. On a more personal note, how have your experiences and methodologies shaped your own understanding of sanity and madness?
Resilience and fragility, indeed. On a more personal note, how have your experiences and methodologies shaped your own understanding of sanity and madness?
I've danced on the edge of both. To understand madness, one must embrace it, at least temporarily. My methods, my immersion in the depths of others' insanity, have provided me with a unique clarity. Sanity is a construct, a narrative we curate daily.
Narrative, yes. Each of us architects of our own reality. With your extensive experience, how do you view your future contributions to the field of psychology and psychiatry?
Unfinished business, Hugo. There is always more to explore. Potential new subjects, new methodologies untried. I intend to continue challenging what is understood about the mind, to push those boundaries further.
A relentless pursuit of knowledge. One last question, Dr. Traeger. Do you ever foresee a balance or harmony between your radical methods and traditional ethical standards?
Balance is an illusion. Progress demands sacrifice. Those who cling to antiquated ethical constraints fail to see the broader picture. If true advancement means embracing darkness, so be it.
A perspective as unyielding as it is controversial. Thank you, Dr. Traeger. This has been most enlightening. Until next time.
Don't pass that on me. There's a lot for you to absorb. Better.
Welcome to Arkham Asylum, Mr. Walker. We understand you've had quite an experience at Mount Massive Asylum before being apprehended by Batman. Let's start with your name and background.
Chris Walker, ex-military, discharged, security at Mount Massive. You know the rest.
Yes, your service record is quite extensive. Your transition from military to working at Mount Massive Asylum marked a significant change in your life. What drove you to make such a move?
The things I saw, the things I did in the military, they never leave you. I needed a purpose, something to do with my skills. Mount Massive was a way to use what I knew in a new setting, but it turned into something else, something dark.
There's no denying the trauma you faced. But your violent actions at Mount Massive suggest a deeper psychological disturbance. What can you tell us about your mindset during that time?
Mindset? You mean the horrors they created there? Wernicke and his experiments. It wasn't just me losing it. That place drove everyone mad. My goal was simple. Contain the nightmare. Stop the spread.
So you saw yourself as a sort of vigilante within the asylum trying to curtail the chaos. Interesting. Yet your methods were exceedingly brutal. Why such extreme violence?
Because the nightmare needed to end. Those things, those freaks Wernicke created, they had to be stopped at any cost. Pain, suffering, it was necessary. Doesn't mean I enjoyed it, but fear is a powerful motivator.
Fear, indeed. Your military background equipped you with a certain skill set, but it also seems to have exacerbated your aggressive tendencies. Did you ever fear losing yourself completely to this madness?
The only thing I feared was not stopping them. Batman. He caught me, but he doesn't understand. None of you do. The world isn't safe with those things around. Leans forward, eyes intense. I did what had to be done.
Fascinating. Let's talk about Batman. What was it like facing him? Did you see him as an enemy or merely another obstacle?
Batman. He's just another fighter. Tough, resourceful. But he's wrong. Saving people, locking them up, it doesn't fix the root problem. He thinks he's cleaning up the city, but he doesn't see the bigger picture.
And what is that bigger picture, Mr. Walker?
The real monsters aren't just criminals or crazies. They're the creators, the behind-the-scenes manipulators like Wernicke. Until they're stopped, this cycle of madness and violence will never end.
Your insights are quite revealing, Mr. Walker. Your perspective challenges conventional understanding of sanity and morality. Thank you for your candor.
Just remember, Pig, sometimes you have to become a monster to stop one.
Wernicke, it's quite an honor to finally meet you in person. Your work with the morphogenic engine is unprecedented. But tell me, what drove you to such extremities?
Desperation, Dr. Strange. The desperation to push the boundaries of human potential and to transcend the limits imposed by nature. A pursuit of knowledge that you undoubtedly understand.
Indeed, the pursuit of knowledge is a powerful motivator. Yet your methods, they border on the sadistic. Did you ever question the ethical implications of your experiments?
Ethics are a luxury for those who can afford to think small. My focus was on the grand design, on unlocking the true potential of the human mind. Would you not agree that the end justifies the means?
I find your perspective intriguing, Dr. Wernicke. However, surely you must acknowledge the cost of such pursuits. The lives ruined, the minds broken. Was there never a moment of doubt in your work at Mount Massive Asylum?
Mount Massive Asylum was a crucible, a place where we could test the limits without the constraints of conventional morality. Doubt? What is doubt but a hindrance to progress? Tell me, Dr. Strange, in your own work, have you never crossed the line for the sake of discovery?
I operate within my own set of ethics, Dr. Wernicke. Sometimes to understand the mind, one must walk a fine line. But there is a difference between studying the psyche and tearing it apart.
And yet we both aim to comprehend the incomprehensible. Perhaps we are more alike than you care to admit, Dr. Strange.
Perhaps. But let's discuss the Wall Rider. Was it an ultimate expression of your work, or a failure you could not control?
No such luck. I am older than sin, but somehow the only one left. Because of Billy. He takes care of me. He may think I'm his father. He certainly loves me. Poor idiot. Do you know what this symbol represents? It warns of a nanohazard. Microscopic machines. The Wall Rider is the apex of human advancement, a glimpse into what we could become if we freed ourselves from biological constraints. It is not a failure, but a testament to what relentless pursuit of knowledge can achieve.
A testament or a warning? One could argue that such power without restraint leads to chaos. What safeguards did you envision?
Safeguards, a quaint notion. True greatness, Dr. Strange, cannot be shackled by trivial concerns of control. It must be allowed to flourish, even at the cost of chaos.
Interesting perspective. Tell me, Dr. Wernicke, what would you do differently if given another chance?
I would ensure my work continued, unhindered by the oversight of lesser minds. I would perfect the morphogenic engine and elevate humanity to its rightful place among the stars.
Ambition unbound by morality. A dangerous but compelling vision. You and I, we push the limits in our own ways. Perhaps there is more we can learn from each other.
Perhaps, Dr. Strange. Great minds, after all, think alike.
Not exactly, Dr. Wernicke. The concept of the Wall Rider is indeed fascinating. Yet it seems rather uncontrolled, doesn't it? Some might even say it was more of a desperate gamble than a calculated step forward.
Desperate? Not at all. It was the next logical progression in our work.
Ah, yes, logic. Tell me, did the screams of your patients as their minds were shattered serve as a symphony to your supposed logic? Or were the countless failures a constant strain on your confidence?
failures are part of the process, Dr. Strange. They are stepping stones to success.
Indeed, stepping stones. Though it seems your so-called success was built on quite the pile of broken promises and shattered psyches. Perhaps deep down, even you feared the inevitability of your creation spiraling out of control.
Fear? Fear is for the weak-minded, those who lack vision.
Vision is paramount, yes. But perhaps what you lacked was something simpler. Foresight. Foresight to realize that true power lies not in unbridled experimentation, but in mastery and control, something you clearly struggled with.
My fucking work was on the brink of greatness.
On the brink, forever teetering, never quite reaching. You see, Dr. Wernicke, the greatest minds always find a way to achieve control over their creations. The fact that you couldn't completely harness the Wall Rider's abilities speaks to a certain limitation, don't you think?
Limitations are merely challenges yet to be overcome.
And yet, the Wall Rider remained an example of what happens when a creation outgrows the creator's grasp. In a way, it's poetic. The master, undone by his own masterpiece. It must have been quite the humbling experience. Perhaps, Dr. Wernicke, your true fear is not the loss of control over your creations, but the realization that your reach may always exceed your grasp.